Hi, this is Valerie Park. I'm the former superintendent principal out here at Semitropic and now member of the Learning Network with Kern County Superintendent of Schools.
Hi, I'm Natalie Anchetta. I teach 8th grade and I've been on the leadership team for 3 years.
I'm Jennifer Fields, a 3rd grade teacher at Semitropic School. I've been out here for 22 years and this is my 2nd year on the leadership team at Semitropic.
Hello, my name is Hilda Torres. I'm the program coordinator for Semitropic School District. I have been on the leadership team for 2 years and been with the district for over 11 years.
Hi, my name is Shannon Sandoval. I'm the kindergarten teacher at Semitropic, and I have been on the leadership for 1 year and been at Semitropic for 11 years.
The last member on our team is Natalie Anchetta, the 8th grade teacher who's been on leadership for 2 years.
And I'm the current superintendent at Semitropic.
All right, if you could explain to me a little bit about your role on leadership, in particular what it was like prior to me coming here to Semitropic and how it's evolved to the current state now. And also if you could share with us the perception of the other staff members in terms of your role on leadership. And whoever wants to jump in can speak.
I'll go ahead, I'll go first. Prior to Dr. Park being here, our superintendent pretty much did everything as the sole entity of making decisions on everything from curriculum to personnel to every decision made. When Dr. Park came in, she not only made decisions, but she created a leadership team to help her to make decisions that as a team were for the benefit of the kids and the school. And I joined last year as my first year to have experience on that, which also involved into our involvement in LCAP and using the funds for the benefit of the students and the staff to help make the school better. And after you left, Bethany came in and has continued everything pretty much as it was moving forward, what we need to, per LCAP for the staff needs. And as far as I can tell, the perception by the staff of myself and the rest of us on leadership team, they appreciate the work that we are doing because we all represent our vertical teams, K2, 3-5, and 6-8, and they have no problem asking us for information, and when we give information from leadership meetings to disseminate down, it's always well received, and it seems like a very open two-way door of communication between myself and Bethany and myself and the teachers I work with as well.
So for you guys, when you were doing that first year of creating that leadership team, how did that feel? Because you probably hadn't had that culture in place, and I don't know, did you have to build up that trust? I mean, well, who kind of opened up that door?
Because last year I wasn't on leadership. This is my first year. So I was that teacher whose voice I felt like wasn't heard before Val came on campus, and our K2 SPAN leader was Mrs. Gamboa, and she just always made it very, very clear to myself as well as the other teachers in our grade level span that yes, I may be the person on leadership, but it's a collaboration from all the teachers, and we want everyone's voice to be heard, and you can let me know and I can take it to the leadership meeting, or if you feel like you need to come to the leadership meeting and let something be known, that you can. So I've always appreciated that, and now being on leadership I appreciate it even more so that I know that I'm not in it all by myself, and it's not just one person's voice, it's everybody's.
And just to piggyback off of that for what Shannon said, that it does feel like we now have a voice from teachers and even instructional aides if they see something going on in the classroom that maybe we don't catch in the classroom, as well as in my role as program coordinator, being able to have a voice, whereas before leadership team we didn't. And so it's been very effective and very positive, and it has helped create a culture of learning, not just for the students, but for all of us.
Anyone else? Okay.
Don't scare her.
What was that? You mentioned in one of our other discussions about the LCAP and your involvement in that. And for those people that are listening, because we are a single school district, our school site plan is identical to the goals that we have in the LCAP, because our LCAP is our school plan. It's what we lived and breathed by, and I think continue to do so here at Semitropic. So what I want the group to share now is how they became involved in the LCAP and the writing of the LCAP, and how they involved their teachers and the vertical teams in the process as well, so that everyone was on the same page and understood why we were doing what we were doing. So whoever wants to share.
Okay, so last year I wasn't on the leadership team. I was just not on the leadership team and just a regular gen ed education teacher in the classroom. So our leadership person would come in during our PLC meetings that we have every Wednesday and would share what was being discussed in the leadership meetings and at LCAP trainings, and would come back and share that with our group and discuss with us, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good fit for our school? Do we need to tweak this? Do we need to edit it? So we really, as the teachers here on campus, felt like we had a voice, and that this was not some plan that was put together on a whim of whoever was in charge at the time, that we really felt like we had ownership of it, so that we could put this into place school-wide, K-8.
Anyone else?
Well, I remember we just met as a whole staff, all in one room, and we talked about what we wanted our Semitropic student to look like when he or she graduated from 8th grade. And from there, we created our mission and our vision. And we looked closely at what we were doing on campus, the work on the student's desk, and found that there were some gaps in our instruction and in our systems. So we just, from there, decided what we needed to do next. We identified literacy and math as our areas for growth, and we started to just backwards map what programs and what strategies we needed in place to meet our vision and our mission, essentially our Semitropic student graduating with 21st century skills.
And to continue on that thought, after we met as the staff and even as the leadership team, we decided what ideas were totally core and important that we wanted included in the LCAP. And we wanted to make sure that we had programs for intervention and enrichment that would be successful for the kids, that would help to bring them up to grade level that would be able to continue on up without issues, and looking at targets and goals and what would be attainable goals and targets that we could achieve and not be so high that it would be overwhelming, or so low that we would just jump it like in a heartbeat and then have nothing else to work towards. So we wanted to have something that was doable but a little bit of a challenge at the same time, so that we were upping the rigor of the students as well as upping the expectations from the teachers and of the teachers and the students as well.
Anyone else? Okay. So we talked about the involvement that you had in the LCAP, and we talked earlier about how the LCAP flowed into the school site plan. So we have this big 88-page document with our 3 goals on it, and you're supposed to go forth and implement, right? And then we went to a workshop with Jay Westover at Innovate Ed and kind of saw the light on what we needed to do. So talk to me about how you as a team, because I was just the scribe, went from our large LCAP and school site plan to this 1-page document of this is what we need to do here at Semitropic to make sure all kids are successful. Don't everybody talk at once.
Well, we knew what we needed to do in order to graduate successful 8th graders after hearing statistics of what needed to be in place for them to be successful as an 8th grader moving into high school. So we took that data and we basically backwards mapped as to how can we get them there at several of our key grade levels. And so we plugged in what we were currently doing into our 1-page plan based on the LCAP and what we were using as a school site, our language arts, our math, and any enrichment materials. And then we had to look around to find things to help fill those other gaps so that we could say that we have things in place to move them up the scale, and we went from there.
And so those items that were used to basically fill in the gaps were things that we looked at that would benefit the students so that they could achieve at these particular grade levels that we were then going to go back and look at and track based on these key grades, 3rd, 5th, and 8th. So when we looked at items to implement, we were looking at what could we use to help improve these kids. For example, next gen math, and looking at the new science standards, and kind of with that key in mind as to looking forward and looking what could be put in place that would just enhance what we were already doing in the classroom.
So basically you took an LCAP goal, which was our first one, all students will achieve at high levels in all content areas. And we had a conversation, what does that mean? Are we going to focus in on all content areas, or where does the research point us to? And then working with Jay and looking at research, it really pointed us to the areas of literacy and math. In particular, 8th graders being on grade level in math when they graduate, and 3rd and 5th graders reading at grade level at the end of those respective school years. And from there we determined these are some of the things we have to put in place, and this is what we already have in place. So talk to me a little bit about that process when we got there with Jay, and how we got from that goal in LCAP and all of those pages for goal 1, and how we got to this 1-page document. How did we do that?
We started with our first goal to achieve academic rigor, and we set our school focus on increasing student achievement in the areas of literacy and math. And then we discussed what that looked like, and for us we decided that we wanted our 8th graders to be on grade level in mathematics when they graduate, which is setting your goal pretty high. So we put markers in place in 3rd and 5th grade to make sure that we were checking in to see that our students were on pace to meet that goal. As we did that, we found that although we had standards-based curriculum in place, which was great, that we were overlooking some of the math practices that would move our students forward. We also found that our English language students were falling behind. So after we identified those gaps, we started to look at what we had that we could support, with greater emphasis among the staff and with our students, and then started to look at what we needed to put in place to meet that goal.
And we realized that through Jay, by creating columns to really help us clearly see and categorize things, then we realized that there's jobs for the staff, there's jobs for the district level, there's jobs for the students, ways for us to prove what we had. So we needed more CFAs. That was definitely one of our weaknesses. And setting up a timeline of being able to achieve it within realistic gaps of time, not that it's so far out that it's too late to go back and correct any holes, but far enough out that we could see the holes starting to develop, that we could go back and correct it either through more fluency with math facts or more fluency with reading, or through intervention programs, which we put in place for Lexia and for Alex for math for 3 and up, and having more intense intervention for those who really need it that are on a tier 2 to 3 risk factor.
I know as the new admin coming in, it was really nice to look at this one sheet and go, okay, here's the school supports, here's what I'm expected to monitor, and here's the things that are in place. It was real easy for me to come in and know what's expected and what the focus was, without having to read that 88-page document first.
It was well written.
It was. I read that too.
So tell me, what did you see when you were putting this plan together? What was your administrator's role in this process? What did Valerie do during this day?
She was supportive of us with anything that we put out there, And if we missed something, then you were really good, though, to come back and say, well, what about this angle? So, we were trying to make sure that we caught all the corners. And I think that helped us to realize that by seeing some of our gaps, you were able to help us realize, but this is still a gap. What else can we do? So that we really didn't leave any stone unturned, that it was a fluid piece of paper that flowed from top to bottom, left to right, and that it involved everybody on our campus. It didn't leave out the bus drivers or any maintenance or anybody, that everybody has a part in the success of the kids. Anything from just a motivational, hey, how you doing, to like, can you talk to them maybe at a different level, realizing that they have a part of the school support because they're a staff, and it goes into that ultimate success factor.
So did you feel this was teacher-driven, administrator-driven, or was it shared responsibility?
Shared responsibility. Because it involved all of us. We all had meetings to look at everything going on. I mean, everything from the yard supervision to kitchen to bus drivers. Everybody was involved. Parents as well.
So talk to me a little bit about how, once this paper came to fruition and we settled on it and got to share it with a couple of districts, how did you then go back and share it with the teachers at your vertical team meetings? How did you get their support in this document?
I remember taking this document back to my middle school team, and they had this response to it that was very positive. There was almost a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I know what my students are expected to do. I know how I'm expected to get them there. I know what kind of supports I can expect from my school district. I know what the evidence looks like and when I'm supposed to provide that evidence to my district. They felt like this really clarified their expectations for themselves and for their students.
Being a teacher in the K-2 span, not on the actual planning of this, just giving my input in meetings, it was really nice to see some of those suggestions that we gave in our PLC meetings showing up on the LCAP, so that I knew that my voice was heard and that it wasn't one person making this huge document that we're all supposed to live, breathe, and die by.
And with my team, they realized, well, we're doing some of this stuff already, so it was just like a validation of, it's not recreating the stone wheel, it's in there, and now it has a place and it fits in, it has a purpose for why we're doing what we're doing. And so for them, it was accepted very well.
So, and Shannon, I do want to ask this of you, because you're a K-2 vertical team, and when you look at the outcomes, we're focused on 3rd and 5th in reading, and we're focused on 8th graders for math. What does that mean to you as a K-2 teacher? Does that mean, well, I'm not on here, so good luck to you folks.
No, I think that's a very interesting question, considering that I didn't start my career in kinder. I've been in the upper grades, I've been in the middle grades, and now I'm in the lower grades again. So being the kinder teacher, I know that, it's not all fun and games, and that a lot rests on my shoulders, because I'm laying that groundwork that, even though it does say specifically on this document 8th, 3rd, and 5th, that doesn't mean that I have my opt-out. It means that I have to backwards map myself and see, okay, yes, this is what they're supposed to be doing in 3rd, and this is what they're supposed to be doing in 5th. Okay, well, what between those grades do I need to fill in the gaps? And then this is where it opened up the huge, like, I don't know, for me, it was the ability not to just talk with my vertical team. It was, now I'm sitting down and having a conversation with 8th grade teacher. Okay, what do you see, what do you think that my kids need to do for math to be ready for you when they get there? What do you see as the 3rd grade teacher, as what my kids in kinder, what's missing? So we were able to sit down and have those conversations, so you're not an island anymore. You are stepping out of that comfort zone as a teacher, and not just talking to the ones in your grade level span, you're talking to everyone on campus. And everyone has that responsibility of making your kids college and career ready. So, a lot of times people will say, oh, well, you're the kindergarten teacher, you just get to have fun. No, we're in there and we're learning too, and we have standards, and, I have people who are relying on me to make sure that my kids have those building blocks in their foundation and they're ready to go and hit the ground running so that when they do hit 8th grade, they are college and career ready.
They just high-fived each other. Okay, I'm going to stop and we'll do the last question, and if there's anything else you guys want to add, we'll do that. Because it occurred on recording. If you could, for a little bit, spend some time telling me, how does this one-page implementation plan now work for you in the 16-17 school year? You planned it out at the end of last year, so this is your first year of implementation of the implementation plan. So how's that going? What's happening there?
Well, being in the leadership position this year, it was really nice to have a map basically to hand to, and we have a lot of new teachers at our school this year, to be able to hand this to them and say, okay, this is what we do at Semitropic. Not this is how it's always been done, or that kind of thing. It's this is what we do, and this is why, and there's a goal, there's a purpose, and we're gonna follow this. And it's not just a K2 thing, it's not just a 3-5, it's not just a 6-8, it's school-wide. We all are following this. And I think that first day, my first PLC meeting, that I think I just heard them all go, because they knew what they needed to do, and they knew that they weren't alone, and they knew that they could go to the 3-5 team or the 6-8 team and say, okay, I'm not really understanding this. How does this push us forward this year?
I think for me, looking at it at the end of the first year, I'm realizing, we've done pretty good on having all this help out, but for me, I see holes that have happened this year that somehow we need to try to fill in some gaps on. So, and it's not just a concrete that we've done this once and it's never going to be touched again. There's obviously things that need to be rethunk, revised, redone kind of thing after going through it for the first year, to make things more solidified than they already are. And, using the 2 new programs for the first time this year, and how is it doing? Do we want to continue that way with our focus, or do we want to look at that to go in different directions, or do we want to use those resources in a different way, even though they're still in the LCAP and we still use them, but can we spin it out and make it a little bit bigger, a little bit more effective? So for me, I've looked at it several times thinking, okay, this looks great. I'd like to maybe try something different with it to tweak it out a little bit more.
And I think that's important to understand, that this document is a living, breathing document. Although we worked on it, you still need to go back and look at it, and not just look at it. Take a deep look, and based on your data that you're collecting along the way, are we meeting those goals? Are we doing what we say we're doing? And if not, how can we improve ourselves and improve this document to take us, into next year? And so for me, I feel, I think it's great that we can actually go back to it and revise it if needed. And then we can also take a look at it and see, yes, those are some of the key areas that we focused on and we worked on, and look at it as some celebration as well.
To go along with what Jennifer and Hilda said, I think that this has been something that we've kind of been talking about throughout the year. Like, is this working? Is it not working? And I know that the K2 team, we're getting together and we're discussing what we were using to collect for data collection, and is it working? Well, some of the things weren't, so what do we need to put in place for next year so that we're ready to go and roll out those programs if need be for the beginning of next school year?
I found the timeline to be incredibly helpful. Knowing what evidence we're going to collect and when we're going to collect it, it's kept us on track, and we have a much better idea of how our students are going to perform on the state test this year than we had in the past. We are not expecting any big surprises, and we've been able to react in a proactive way to those gaps.
So do you feel that the staff owns this document?
I do.
Yes.
Yes.
We're all nodding.
Yeah, everybody's nodding their heads, Yost, in case you wanted to know.
I just think that it's interesting because now even our new teachers, I think they feel like they have ownership and they've had a voice in contributing to this document, even though they weren't there at the beginning when it was created. But I think that they really feel like they have that ownership in this document because we've made them feel that way and know that their voice can be heard.
And all of these, then, Bethany, these things you'll find in your LCAP and your school site plan, right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Perfect. All right. So is there anything else anybody wants to say? I'll stop this one and we'll start again if anybody. Anything? Okay, is there anything else you'd like to share with our principals at the Principals Learning Network? Things that they might need to know.
Well, I know that last year after we had come up with our LCAP and our one-page implementation plan, that as an entire school district we got together, K-8, and we sat down, and since it was English Language Arts and math that were our goals basically for the next couple of years or the next year, that we backwards mapped from kinder all the way to 8th grade our key standards so that there weren't any gaps. And I felt like that was really important, and I felt like I had ownership in that I was able to say these are the key standards at my grade level. Okay, what are the key standards at your grade level? Okay, is there any gaps? Is there anything that I need to cover as a supporting standard in my grade, where we were talking, and it was everyone, and we were all talking to each other about, you know, how do we move forward to push our kids.
One of the other important things to remember is that we built that city of trust, so we were given trust by Val and Bethany to take information, to take it to our teams, that there's open door, that we respect each other, our teachers in our teams respect us, they feel like they have ownership in it, that they can go and they can put in their thoughts, their ideas, and it's mutual between all of us. It's not exclusively the district office running it, and that the leadership team's not just the mouths that say it and expect the teachers to do it. We all have equal buy-in. It's a mutual trust guarantee that we are all going to support each other. There's no negativity about it. Pride is aside when we're looking at data, because we need to look at the data to see where we are so we can make the adjustments. So teachers don't take that personal pride and not want to talk about their data because they don't want to have somebody look down on them that they were a failure for not meeting the targets at the time. And we don't look at it that way. For me personally, I say, here's my data. This is my reality. What can I do? What are some new ideas? This is what I've already tried. So we all are in it as a support effort to help each other.
I think the biggest thing to remember as an administrator when creating a document that's all-encompassing like this is, the biggest success you're going to feel is when you see your teachers be successful, and to sit back and to see them flourish and to bloom, and to see their successes, and to see them grow as professionals, and to see them come up with these ideas and the practices. That's where, as a professional, as an administrator, that's where you get your joy, and some of that stress leaves you a little bit when you get to see that. So when you take part in that practice, and when you can sit back and see your teachers do that, it really is fulfilling. So if you can kind of step back a little bit and let your teachers be part of the process, then it is so much more fulfilling, and it is so much more meaningful to not just yourself, but to your school as a whole and to your district as a whole.
And I think that goes the same as when, like, you're a teacher and you have a classroom, you set high standards for your students. Well, they will rise to those standards. So an admin needs to think about their staff and, setting some goals out there and encourage them and facilitating the work so that they do meet those standards. I know what helped quite a bit here in the work that we did was that Dr. Park had a vision for herself for the leadership team. She facilitated that work, and she allowed us to work on it together collaboratively and build that trust within the team and administration. And then that just flowed into the work that we had to go back and do in our grade level spans. And so building that trust is key. It's very important because you want to be able to do great work, because in the end it's all for the children. And so building that trust is key.
Anyone else? And it's important to remember, it just takes time. You're not going to build Rome in a day, right? Mm-hmm. We had a 5-year plan, and this is all part of the process in getting there. And then every year you look at it, and how can you make it better?
Well, and we talked about that earlier, of making those adjustments and looking to see, did all of this really help us? What gaps are there, and what can we do next year to help fill in the gaps to make it even stronger than what it was? Because it looked great at the beginning of the year, but as the year's gone through, personally myself, I've realized that there's some gaps that I need to have some bridges built to help me be more supportive for my kids next year.
And I think just taking it a piece at a time, like you said, it's not going to be built in a day. Although looking back on this particular document, we did quite a bit of work in a short amount of time, but I believe that's because we took pieces of what we could do and where we could improve upon, and then built up that document, and it was just a way of how we did things here.
Okay. Well, thank you ladies very much. I have to say, you make me proud. I can tell you what. They make me proud, Yost. Figure out a way to put that in there. Mic drop. We do that all the time. Boom.
She's dancing around with her.
Okay, so what did you say about it? You talked about having a huge disconnect. No, it's not. I'm just sitting here.
I said that there's a huge disconnect between the administration and the teaching staff
At other schools.
at other school sites, and I wouldn't want to work for a district where I knew my voice wasn't heard. I have no idea.
No, so your voice isn't heard in terms of just in general, or in
in the
this
LCAP.
doc, and then in
Yeah.
the one-page implementation plan.
Yeah, I don't know I'm so sleep deprived right now.
But if you don't
You
have
say it.
that,
Yeah.
but if you don't have that open door policy, then the teachers aren't going to be willing to even buy into this one page, because what does it matter? My voice isn't heard. It's only the administration who is saying this is what you're going to do, and it doesn't matter if it works for the teachers and for the students or not.
Right.
And so if we can't have that open door policy to come in and say, this isn't working, can we try to find something else, or can we try to fix it? And if Bethany's not willing to listen to me, then it's like, well, why do I even bother? So for us, I think we all totally buy into that, and we know that we can talk to anybody about any of those issues and be able to say, what are some other ideas, what are some other suggestions, and we know we're not going to be turned away.
Because we've all worked for those administrators that say we have an open door policy, and the door might be open, but they're not listening.
Or there's a glass door that you don't see. when
Or
you
they'll
hit.
say, we really value your input, and you give it, and you never see it come to fruition on any document or any plan or any initiative that you have on your campus. So it's one thing to say, but it's a whole other thing to live and breathe that.
And that's what is happening here, because we're all able to do every 100% and be able to offer suggestions or question, is this working?
And I think it's really powerful that you know that you'll come back to this and make revisions to continue to make it better. Because it's not perfect. Looks good on paper, but we have to put it into practice.
Yeah, I think we just went in, we had to add the 2 other C's, and we were like tweaking some,
We're working on the K2
The
area.
foundation
Yeah.
and literacy.
we wanted to be more specific on what it actually meant on the foundational literacy, like.
So we've actually had to really rework just a few other things, just because we realized that there were still some issues, and it's still even in progress right now. But
Yeah.
yet we've all had that ability to walk through.
I think it's also realizing that once you're finished with the document, it's technically not finished. That yes, you did this awesome job, but don't laminate it and put it on the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's one of those things where, yes, it's finished
not a
for
laminated
right
product.
now, but it's a work in progress.
Right. You can make notes on it, jot down some
Right.
ideas, slap
Yes.
Post-it notes on it. We need to fix this.
Exactly. And it's those things where you see something maybe in your classroom and you take it back to the group or the leadership team or your span and you're like, hey, are you seeing this in your room as well? Well, you are awesome. Now I can take that back to the leadership team, or, you know, hey, I'm going to go take this to Bethany right now because this is something that needs to be fixed ASAP.
And although mine is on my bulletin board, it's not laminated. But for me, it's a reminder of what we're doing and have I done enough on my part, being supportive role for the teachers and implementing this work.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's just a reminder that I see every day.
Well, and after 1 year of working with our implementation plan, what stands out as being a highly effective practice is more obvious now. Things that we would add to an infographic, right? Like the next gen practices, the 21st century skills. A lot of the data that we're collecting is giving us a better idea of what our students are doing. So I think after having it for a year, what matters most really jumps out.
And I think just realizing that the end goal is the success of our students.
Yeah.
Next gen.
It'll just get better and better every year. So you guys spread your wings and fly.
Fly, little birdies, fly.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for that.
Recording on
Yes. I was.
That's better.